and that excitement for space is being awoken in them. We have some specialists on the show, some people who are working with young students. We're also going to be hearing from some young voices to know a little bit more about how the space dream for India is being built. And after that, we're not done. From the world of space, we take you to the classical world of music. I don't want to ruin too much, but today is a knowledge-filled and a beautiful musical episode. For now, let's go straight to the headlines. My name's Toya Singh. Let's take a look at the first story. Space isn't just for city kids anymore. ISRO takes science where rockets haven't gone. As tribal schools are going to be getting hands-on with satellites, we take a look at the entire initiative right here on the show. And after that, as we promised, we traverse Karnataka, Hindustani and ghazals all in one go with our musical guest, Gayatri Ashokan. She's going to be on the show and she's going to educate us. She's going to teach us a little bit about the differences between these three different forms. They might be very different, but what do they have in common? As someone who has specialized in all three, she takes us through her journey. And then in the world of entertainment, the Aankhon Ki Gustakiyan trailer out now. Vikrant and Shananya starring in this romantic drama, and we have an exclusive chat with the stars. First up, today's story on The Breakfast Club is one of those that we hope is going to make you stop and pause. As India prepares to send its first astronauts into space under the Gaganyaan mission, as India already has one man in space who's on the Axiom right now, the government has greenlit a bold mission. This time not in the orbit, but right here on Earth. 100 space laboratories are going to be coming up in tribal residential schools across the country, designed not just as classrooms, but as entry points into careers in rocketry, satellites, and space science. This is the announcement, this is the initiative. Each lab will be equipped with scale models of ISRO's launch vehicles, real-time satellite trackers, and most crucially, the idea that space isn't just for the elite or for the urban. The goal is a very, very simple one. When you have a school kid in a village, either in the mountains or on the coast, maybe in the forests of Bastar, when they look up in the sky, they shouldn't just see stars. They should see a future, and they should have a strong understanding of what they're looking at. Now, these labs, how are they going to be funded? CSR partners. CSR is corporate social responsibility. It's when corporations, businesses give money. It's going to be implemented by ISRO certified space tutors. And for the first time, it's all going to be tied to a larger national mission that blends equity, education, and aerospace. Sunne mein, of course, it sounds incredible. But what are the nuts and bolts? How will this be put together? First, we're going to have our reporter who brought us this story. She's going to be joining us and telling us the exact details. After that, we're going to be speaking to space pioneers, people who've actually brought about that change on the ground in India over the last decades. And then we're going to speak to some curious voices. But first, News18.com's Shrishti Chaudhary joins us right here on the show. Shrishti, good morning. Shrishti, you've been tracking the Axiom mission and all of the updates that are coming in. So you've seen that excitement firsthand that's there in the newsroom, but also that's there on the ground when it comes to these missions. Shrishti, first just tell us, what is the initiative itself? Give us the details. When is it going to come into play? How long does it typically take, for example, to build a space classroom? Walk us through all the details.
Very good morning to you, Toya. So yes, so this initiative is basically from the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and it's meant for certain schools which have already been identified. There are about 477 schools across the country who will be benefited, and these are basically Eklavya model residential schools. So remember, these Eklavya model residential schools, the first of them was set up in the year 1997, and now we have many of them across different states. So these space labs will be set up in around 477 Eklavya model residential schools across various states. I think the largest of them are in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha as well as Jharkhand. And recently, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has, issued tenders. They have invited applications from implementing agencies which are going to set up these space labs, and it will take some time. So the last date for submitting the applications is July 10th. So once the applications are submitted, they are screened through. Once the and then the implementing agency will be selected, following which the process to set up these space labs will begin. So there's a long time ahead, but it's heartening to know that the process has already begun, and these students will get access to a lot of this, space. Will get a know-how of the space infrastructure, which will, probably encourage them to be spacefarers one day.
This is so wonderful. Just tell us a little bit more, Shrishti, because to fully understand the story, we actually need to ask you a different question, which is what exists already. So on the ground, obviously different probably infrastructure in tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities, but what already exists part of curriculums? What are the parts of curriculums about Indian space that are already there in CBSE, ICSE textbooks?
Right. So, Toya, as we all know, all these students, Indian space program is something that all the students have been really studying about, considering it's been now 5 decades about Vikram Sarabhai. So they do have a basic understanding, but the purpose of this particular mission is because a lot of these schools are actually in remote areas, where sometimes they may not get that much of internet access, or, be available to watch these missions live whenever ISRO screens them. So it's an opportunity for them to really understand these rockets. There'll be mini versions of these rockets in these labs. There'll be a telescope as well, for students who are interested in stargazing. And especially, at a time when we have the Axiom mission going off, where, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla is there in space. On Friday as well, we have another session with the school students. So the entire program is to basically encourage these school students who have an interest in space astronomy to get to know a little more. ISRO has multiple rockets, but a lot of students may not even know the distinction between all these rockets. So these space labs are basically designed to break down these simple aspects. So students really know, okay, now we have these many rockets, we are developing a small scale rocket. What would a small scale rocket would do? And I think it'll be very interesting and very encouraging for these students to get an access to a facility like that.
Yes, okay, Shrishti, thank you for highlighting this for us. Now we thought we need to take our audience, you, to someone who has actually built on the ground, someone who's changed young students' lives across the country already. We're going to have with us here Dr. Srimati Kesan. She's the founder of Space Kids India. It's an organization that's worked over the last few years with school students to build real satellites. And they've done this with students in rural areas, students in urban cities, and we thought we just have to have her on to ask her first just her initial reaction to this. So Dr. Kesan, thank you for joining us. Good morning. Dr. Kesan, we'll ask you more in a bit. What does it actually take to build a classroom? But first, your initial reactions.
This is, I would say, an amazing one because when you go into the deeper pockets, they do not really have a basic lab wherein children understand the meaning of a lab itself. So I am so happy that, this initiative will at least be an eye-opener for every child aspiring to, become a scientist. We have to start from alphabet A, stating what is a scientist for them to even understand, then get into the lab and access the lab. So I'm extremely happy because this is what I've been doing last 14 years to create that awareness. And we don't know where the rarest of gems are hidden in our country. And it is very, very difficult for these children to come to the mainland to access the labs and go back home. So many, and especially I am advocating for girls. So I would keep it to the girls. Very difficult for them to go somewhere without an escort and, come back. And so I think this is a really welcome move, I would say, on the prima facie.
Dr. Kesan, tell us, you've built satellites with students across the country. You've got them in groups together and they've worked on satellites multiple times in the last few years. Tell us, when a child who has never seen a rocket in real life, they've never seen this equipment in real life, even just a telescope, when they walk into a lab, what changes?
I will actually cry, Toya. You know what? This brings me back, to the days when we are, 2 years ago when we were working with all the rural children from Kashmir to Kanyakumari for our Azadi Sat. there were so many children who did not know that there is a rocket that goes up, there is a satellite that sits in a rocket, where does it sit? And we have something like this, a research, space research organization in India. Everything was so unaware for them till we could introduce all these little things to these children. When we got them the boards with electronic circuits and all that, the excitement in children's faces, I tell you, and to hold the soldering, the soldering pin, and to hold the breadboard, they went gaga, I have to say. I just am a testimony to the real feel of what these children had. And I don't want to name the villages or anybody in particular, but I can just narrate you the incidents a little bit. These children do not have internet facility or a laptop, and they were so curious to learn about this. Once we started talking about it, once we gathered all of them online with the help of mobile phones, with the help of mobile phones of the principal and teachers, these children learned all these things. And they, some of them, straight away the principals told me that, हमारी लड़कियां शादी होना है, ये क्या सैटेलाइट ये पूरे नहीं करेंगे. I was shocked. But there was, on the contrary, some principals who actually teared up on the call and said, हमारे गांव को आपने कैसे ढूंढ निकाले है? I want my girls to do this.
How wonderful. Dr. Kesan, tell us, when one is building a laboratory, how much does it cost typically? How complicated is it? Because you've done this a few different times. And the equipment, do you typically get it from abroad? Are you just using Indian equipment? How does that work?
So yeah, for a basic space lab, Atmanirbhar Bharat is the best, because you get everything here in India for a child to start learning something, the breadboards, the PCBs, the components and everything with regards to hands-on training. But apart from that, the rockets, the models of the rockets and satellites and everything, ISRO definitely is going to play a huge role in this, I'm sure. So with their support, all that will be given to the schools, I presume. And the rest, the first thing is, identify a nice space, about, say, minimum of about 1,000 square feet. And there, the walls need to be painted with completely stars and, planets and everything, so that the child, as soon as he or she enters the room, gets a great feel of being in a space, space journey. And then you have rockets and satellites. And we have a lot of apps these days which can connect us with the satellites that are going around, which have been launched much before. So children can track those satellites. And, you have small equipments and small antennas, that can be fixed in each school, which can point, the stars and the satellites crossing that area and all that. So I'm sure, the basic lab can have all these facilities for a child to learn, the initial stages.
Doctor, what about training teachers though? Is that a whole other task?
Honestly, you need to train every teacher, because those space, today, everybody has a smartphone and, has Google, but still they need to know what to Google to teach the child. Right? So we need to build a beautiful curriculum, train the teachers first to answer, because our children are super smart and they're just going to give you, bullets. So for which the teacher needs to be trained, and then they can go and teach the children. So they definitely need at least about 1 week to 10 days of training before even they get into the lab. Because they need to know the difference between PSLV, GSLV, why GSLV, what is SSLV, everything.
Can you tell us a story, maybe tell us about a student who, you worked with to build something?
Okay, this example I am going to talk about my core team, because I handpicked these kids, these boys, when they were in their eighth and ninth grade. And, they were all space enthusiasts but did not know where to go, what to learn. So, handpicked about 7 boys, brought them together to Chennai, put them in different colleges and everything, and we started working on a high altitude balloon. Initially, it was like, what is a PCB board? What is, designing a PCB board? So, all these things, we had to take notes from ESA, NASA, open papers, and all that. And because of my travel to these places, I had a couple of professor friends. So they were vetting our papers and everything. And that's how, today we built 27 space missions. Can you believe it? From ninth grade. And today they're all 24, 25, grown up. And, 5 orbital satellites and 19 balloons and 3 suborbital missions. One was the world's lightest payload that went up a NASA Stereo Orion. And of course, the 750, the satellite that we built with the girls. So for all this core team played a very, very crucial role. And today, they have, won an accelerator program in the US. And all the boys have started a new company, and they are working on re-entry capsules. Can you believe it? These were children from tier 2, tier 3 towns who were so scared to do anything, scared to speak, but everybody were space enthusiasts and very good with their hands.
Even on the Breakfast Club, this is the first time we're talking about young. We have startup founders come in who are creating, for example, satellites that go out into space, do different kinds of analysis. But first time we're talking about younger kids and their space education.
Yes, I would always say catch them young. It is not that you have to do something in your college as a what do you say? The engineering final year, they have this submission that they have to do, that they've worked on a project and all that. No, it is not that. Space is not that. You need to give them a feel of it right from when they are in their 8th grade. And that's where we have built a curriculum for 8th to 12th graders, completely the nuances of space and satellite building. And we are going to be building a spacecraft after that to the moon.
Your excitement is infectious. Can you tell us, let's just return very quickly to the matter at hand. This initiative to build out 100 laboratories in tribal areas across the entire country. What are the challenges that come about when you're trying to build in areas that typically may be very, very far from urban centers? Are there opportunities?
See, tricky thing is the internet connection, because internet connection is one thing that, has to be connected with the mainland. And even for whatever data that we need that. So I think that needs to be looked into, and for which I think more satellites need to be launched, and that's what the government is looking forward to now. But the opportunities are, you don't get to see, do the, sky watching, stargazing, the stargazing. You cannot do that in a city. You have to go to some place like this. And there are numerous things that, that children are able to spot and identify when they go to such places. And not only that, some of the radars and everything, if you're able to fix in these places, to get, again, with internet, you're able to access space more comfortably rather than in a crowded place. So it is an opportunity, and it is, both, I have to tell you.
Yeah, you're right. In Delhi, it's only, right when it rains that there's a clear sky and one can actually look up. Dr. Kesan, lastly, if we can ask you, we're in this incredible moment right now where, as we speak, there is an Indian up in space. India is known for what it's done in space in the last few years via ISRO. What is your dream for India and the space story in India? You've talked in the past about something called a satellite city. What's a satellite city? Why do you say this is your dream?
I mentioned to you that I was the ambassador for NASA, ESA, and all that, the space camps, and I was taking children from here. So what we are doing is basic exposure for what is space and everything. We are taking them so many kilometers away. We are paying them. We are taking all the Indian money and giving it to all these other countries. Whereas we have so much of land, we have so much of knowledge, we have so much money. We need to create our own space research facility wherein a child which gets in right from KG class, when they get in, they should feel, breathe space. There should be a high altitude ballooning facility, a drone facility, simulations mainly, because we are using Russia and America for the training and all that. But at least for the kids, for triggering their thought processes, we need to have something like a miniature version of NASA. This is what is my, I don't know what to say, it's my vision for the country for so many years now. I'm dying to get this one built here because, of course, labs are important, but there needs to be something beyond labs. After the science labs, what are the children going to do if they do not feel what is zero gravity? And if they don't go into the buoyancy pool, they will not understand what it is. So how long are we going to depend on the space camps and analog astronautic missions of other countries? We have all the potential resources here. We need to build that here.
Wow. Okay. Doctor, it has been wonderful having you on. But it is also so important now. We want to take our audience to speak to someone who's been affected by the change you've brought on the ground, Dr. Kesan. So, what does it actually look like when you give young students access to this kind of equipment? Well, we thought we'd have one last voice for you here on the show. We have joining us right now Chanchal. She's a student from Chhattisgarh and she actually helped build and launch a few years ago. Hello, Chanchal. She helped build the Azadi satellite. She was one of the schoolgirls, the hundreds of schoolgirls who came together to build this satellite with this program. So we thought we'd have her on. We'd ask her a little bit about what it was like. Hello, Chanchal. Thank you for joining us. Chanchal, पहले हमें बताइए this Azadi satellite that we're telling our audiences about, ये है क्या चीज़? What is it?
तो मैं तो जानती भी नहीं थी कि आज़ादी सेट होता ही क्या है। मतलब मुझे आइडिया नहीं था कि आज़ादी सेट होता ही क्या है। और जब हमें इसके बारे में थोड़ा बहुत इंफॉर्मेशन हमारे जो टीचर्स हैं स्कूल के, उन्होंने बताया कि ये आज़ादी सेट पे हमें प्रोग्राम, ये सैटेलाइट ही समझो, हमें एग्जांपल के लिए हम लोग समझ नहीं पा रहे थे, कभी सुने भी नहीं थे ये वर्ड, तो बताया कि सैटेलाइट समझते हो ना ऐसा करके। और हम हिंदी मीडियम के स्टूडेंट है तो हमें हिंदी में उपग्रह बोला गया था। हाँ। तो ये एक सैटेलाइट है जिसपे काम करना है। जितनी भी जानकारी प्राप्त होती है मौसम के बारे में या वेलोसिटीज हैं जो स्पेस में, वो सब हमें यहाँ जो अभी प्राप्त होता है।
बट एक सैटेलाइट बनाते कैसे हैं? मतलब आपने कह तो दिया ऐसे कि सैटेलाइट हमने बनाया, बट कैसे बनाया, कोई टूल्स यूज किए, थोड़ा हमें समझाइए।
सबसे पहले तो हमें एक चिप आया था स्पेस किड्स इंडिया की ओर से। एक छोटा सा चिप था, उस पे ना वो पेलोड जिसको बोलते हैं, तो उस पे हमें वर्क करने के लिए बोला गया था। तो ट्रेनिंग मिलता डेली, मतलब ना 6 मंथ था, तो उसमें हमें ऑनलाइन क्लास मिलता था। उसमें ऑनलाइन क्लास हमारे ध्रुव सर लेते थे और उसमें हमारे टीचर्स भी रहते थे। तो हमें जो समझ नहीं आता था, जैसे कुछ वायरिंग है, तो जो चिप था ना, उसको टेम्परेचर, जैसे हमें टेम्परेचर पता करना है ना, तो अपन हम टेम्परेचर पता कर रहे हैं उसमें। तो जैसे एक्स एक्सिस में कितना है, वाई एक्सिस में कितना है और जेड एक्सिस में टेम्परेचर कितनी है, इसकी वेलोसिटी कितनी है, एक्स एक्सिस में, वाई एक्सिस में, जेड एक्सिस में इसकी वेलोसिटी कितनी है, ये सब की जानकारी हमें मिलते गया, क्लास लेते गए धीरे धीरे करके। और जैसे कुछ प्रॉब्लम होता था हमें, जैसे कि वायरिंग वगैरह का या और कुछ भी चीज का, तो जो हमारे स्कूल टीचर थे ना, वो उनसे हम हेल्प लेते थे।
ओके, सो द स्कूल टीचर्स यूज्ड टू हेल्प यू। एंड चंचल, हमें ये भी बताइए, मैंने सुना है कि आप लोगों का एक गाना भी होता था दैट यू यूज्ड टू सिंग टुगेदर, थोड़ा हमें सुनाएंगे?
एक सॉन्ग था जो
हाँ।
बनाया गया था, ऑल हमारे जितने भी गर्ल्स थे, स्पेस जिसमें आजादी सर 2 पे काम किया, वो सॉन्ग था, आओ मेरे साथ, आओ मेरे साथ, अंतरिक्ष में पुकारा, देखेंगे वहां से, देखेंगे वहां से कैसे दिखता है देश हमारा, सितारों में चंदा जैसे हमको ये नजर आता है, विश्व में ऐसा मेरा देश हो, होंगी वहाँ खामोशियाँ, ना सरहदें ना दूरियाँ, हम सब वहाँ सब एक हो, सब साथ हो, भारत की नींदियों को तार देंगे हम, विश्व में भारत की बेटियों की मिसाल देंगे हम। मैम ये सॉन्ग था।
बहुत बहुत अच्छा लगा। एक आखिरी प्रश्न आपके लिए चंचल, आप हमें ये बता सकते हैं कि स्पेस किड्स में होके, इस प्रोग्राम में होके, इतने सारे, और यू वर्क विद 700 अदर स्टूडेंट्स, आई बिलीव गर्ल स्टूडेंट्स आपकी तरह, बिल्कुल आपकी ज़िंदगी अगर आपको अगर किसी को समझाना है कि कैसे बदली स्पेस के बारे में सीखने के बाद, तो आप क्या बोलेंगे?
सबसे पहले मैं यही बोलना चाहूंगी कि हम जो गांव की लड़कियां होते हैं, उन सबको सामने आने का मौका मिला, क्योंकि हम बहुत डरते हैं कि नहीं हम नहीं कर पाएंगे। तो इस पे जब हम वर्क किए, हमें सेलेक्ट किया गया कि ये स्टूडेंट आएंगे इसमें और काम करेंगे, तो हमें बहुत मतलब हिम्मत मिली कि हाँ हम कर सकते हैं। और जो हमें डिमोटिवेट नहीं करते, बट बहुत से ऐसे होते हैं कि लड़कियां हैं कहाँ कर पाएंगी, क्यों भेजते हो, गाँव में अधिकतर ऐसे होता है। और हमारे गाँव में भी ऐसा होता है कि लड़कियां हैं आप कहाँ भेज रहे हो दूर। तो मेरे पेरेंट्स और जितने भी मेरे फ्रेंड्स सभी गांव से थे, और सबको आगे भेजे हमारे पेरेंट्स, उन्होंने समझा, और इसके जरिए से हम आगे आए। हमने बाहर देखा दुनिया की कैसे होता है, हम कैसे काम कर सकते हैं, हम लड़कियां भी हर क्षेत्र में आगे हो सकते हैं, और अभी भी हर क्षेत्र में लड़कियां ही आगे हैं। और जितने भी हम फ्रेंड्स थे, मेरे फ्रेंड्स जो और 9 लड़कियां थे, वो भी गाँव से ही थे, और वो भी आज जो है, वो डरते थे पहले कि हम बाहर नहीं पढ़ते। वो जब महासमुंद गए पढ़ने के लिए, तो वो हॉस्टल्स में रहते थे, और उन्हें डर भी लगता था कि अब कैसे पढ़ेंगे, कैसे रहेंगे, क्योंकि हम गांव की लड़कियों को अधिकतर बाहर जाना मना रहता था। तो जब हम बाहर गए, चेन्नई भी गए, वहाँ मिले, वहाँ देखे कि कैसे होता है दुनिया, तब बहुत हिम्मत मिली कि हाँ हम कर सकते हैं। और आज हम सभी लड़कियां अलग अलग जगह पे अपना जो पढ़ाई है वो कर रहे हैं। और आज़ादी सेट से जो मेरी एक फ्रेंड है, वो जो है इसी स्पेस, उसको बहुत ज़्यादा ही मतलब, मेरा भी था मैं इसमें जाऊं, बट मैंने नीट का जो है पढ़ाई कर रही हूँ। मैं
अच्छा।
डॉक्टर के लिए पढ़ाई कर रही हूँ अभी।
हाँ।
और मेरी जो एक फ्रेंड है वो भी कर रही है इस फील्ड में आने के लिए। वो जो है
स्पेस में
मेरे से पूछती भी है, और मैंने हमारी डॉक्टर श्रीमती केसर मैम से ये इन्फॉर्मेशन भी लिया था कि मैम इसके लिए क्या पढ़ाई करना होगा इस फील्ड में आने के लिए, तो उन्होंने मुझे बताया भी।
वंडरफुल, थैंक यू हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए, थैंक यू फॉर टेलिंग अस आपकी जो कहानी है। गुड लक फॉर द फ्यूचर। That was just one small example of how bringing space education to young students' lives can absolutely revolutionize the way that they look at the world, but also the way in which their family, their classrooms look at them. That is what makes this so powerful. We're going to be heading into a quick break, but we hope that that has given you a wonderful, very positive start to your day. In the next few minutes, we come back and we bring you classical music. Now, we don't want to ruin too much, but in the next segment, we are going to have someone who has specialized in 3 different art forms: Karnataka, Hindustani and Ghazals. And she takes us through the magical world of all 3. See you in just a few minutes.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US Senate Republicans on Tuesday narrowly passed President Donald Trump's big tax breaks and spending cuts bill, pushing past opposition from Democrats and their own GOP ranks after a turbulent overnight session. Vice President J.D. Vance broke a 50-50 tie to push it over the top. The three Republicans opposing the bill were Senator Tom Tillis, North Carolina's Susan Collins of Maine, and Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. We have a reaction. Let's listen to it.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
All right, so the bill has been passed. There you heard Vice President J.D. Vance, in fact, speaking on this. And this was the same bill. In fact, we've seen that on which Elon Musk and Donald Trump had that issue on which they separated to each other. So after, of course, a little bit of hurdle there, but they could manage to pass this bill, as Donald Trump calls it, a big, beautiful bill in the U.S. Congress.
On the Medicaid situation than they could have. They had saying.
All right, my colleague Akanksha is with us on the phone line. So Akanksha, as Donald Trump calls it, a big beautiful bill has been passed in the Senate. Now, if you can tell us more about this bill, what is in this bill, which in fact separated both formalize Elon Musk and Donald Trump?
Right, and I think that is what we've also observed when it was being passed in the Senate, because President J.D. Vance had to break the tie after three Republicans, as you also named them, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, even Rand Paul of Kentucky. These three Republicans, Arun, they joined all the 47 Democrats in voting against the bill. Why so? It is a common sentiment that's also shared by Elon Musk, which answers your question, that there's a debate in which Republicans are also grappling with the bill's price tag, its impact on U.S. healthcare system. Many are talking about, including Elon Musk, how this entire bill is going to also, expose, and not just expose, also increase the debt of the federal government. There is a divide within the Republicans when it comes to the nation's fast-growing debt, which amounts to over $36 trillion. And they believe that this is going to also increase the self-imposed debt ceiling by, say, $5 trillion. And the Congress will be raising this cap in the coming months or risk devastating default. And that is one concern that has been shared by these Republicans, including, in fact, Elon Musk also joins that chorus. And so, as you said, many are also of the belief, the Democrats have been saying that this is one bill that is only going to benefit the rich billionaires, and and it's going to impact the common man severely, especially when it comes to cuts in healthcare, and is going to be extremely anti-youth. There's going to be immigration crackdown, and now the Senate bill would deliver the benefits to the top 1% of U.S. households who are earning about, say, $600,000. And that's one concern that has been flagged by Democrats, saying that this is anti-American youth. Remember, there's already a lot of unemployment on the rise because of DOGE cutting jobs. And there are a host of concerns henceforth, which the U.S. Senate, including the Democrats and these three Republicans, believe was the result of this entire bill. But having said that, this is now going to set up a battle in the House, where it will finally be sent, and after the passage of this bill in the House is when it will be ratified into a law.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akanksha, for putting this story into perspective. Now we have a reaction of Donald Trump on this. Let's listen to that.
saying it's going to be a very much smaller number than that, and that number will be waste, fraud, and abuse. And if you look, they took a much more liberal stance on the Medicaid situation than they could have. They had a tough stance and a weak stance. They took not a very strong stance on that to start off, and it's waste, fraud, and abuse, and everybody wants that covered. I'm not seeing a number, but I know it's much less than the number you gave, and we really were very...
Welcome back. You are watching The Breakfast Club right here on CNN News 18. Now, our person of interest is Gayatri Ashokan. She is one of the few voices in Indian music to have trained in both Karnataka and in Hindustani before arriving at the delicate craft in the last few years of ghazal singing. She was once a leading playback singer in Malayalam cinema. She's since stepped away from film to return to the very, very heart of music itself. In our conversation today, she's tracing her story with us. And what we're hoping is that we're also going to, with this next segment, illuminate your understanding of what each of these different art forms stands for. Let's just go over to her to understand more. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here on The Breakfast Club. Can we come to you first? It is morning time. It is 8:30. So for anyone watching right now, can you maybe sing us a song? Because ragas, at least, you know, each one is associated to a time of the day, to a season. Either a raga or a ghazal to bring in the morning?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me at the Breakfast Club. And there's this beautiful ghazal which is in Rag Nat Bhairav, which is a morning raga. So I can do a couple of lines for all of you. जो चाहते हो सो कहते हो चुप रहने की लाज़त क्या जानो जो चाहते हो सो कहते हो चुप रहने की लाज़त क्या जानो ये राज मोहब्बत है प्यारे ये राज मोहब्बत है प्यारे तुम राज मोहब्बत क्या जानो जो चाहते हो सो कहते हो.
How wonderful. Gayatri, tell us a little bit about your story now, please. You were trained in Karnataka, then you trained in Hindustani, I believe. I think that was the order. And then you actually performed in cinema playback. But then I believe you decided, Keith, let's take a break. And now you've gone down the ghazal road. How do you traverse all three forms?
Yes, absolutely. I would say my life is completely unplanned. I come from a very different background, as in my parents are doctors. So, but music was always there in the family. So I started off learning Carnatic music because in Kerala, you know, I was born and brought up in Kerala. Kerala, every student inevitably has to train in Carnatic. It's part of the system, not like every student. But we don't have Hindustani classical music in Kerala. So I was trained in Carnatic as a child, but later when I grew a little more older, I developed a very deep love for Hindustani classical music and ghazal. So I wanted to explore that genre. For that I went to Pune to learn Hindustani classical music, very much like a Guru-Shishya Parampara under Dr. Alka Marulkar. And then playback happened very, very, I would say serendipitously. It was unplanned for. Then Malayalam playback became kind of norm of my life. And I had the opportunity to sing for many great music directors, including Ilayaraja sir, Vidyasagar sir, and the list goes on. My first duet was with the legendary Yeshudas ji. So I think a vast part of my life, I would say like 20-25 years, was consumed by playback singing and film music and tours and film gigs. And then after moving to Bombay, which I had not planned, so Mumbai happened again coincidentally because I got married to sitar maestro Purban Chatterjee. So life took a completely different turn, and now I'm completely into improvisational music because deep inside my heart I've always loved improvisational music. I've always loved the kind of music where there are no boundaries and you're not stuck with a 3-minute frame. So here there is more, there's more canvas to explore ragas, to explore poetry. So this would be like a short summary of my career.
This is a tough question, but can you tell us what each different form has taught you? So how is each different from the other? That we know, but what has each almost taught you as an artist?
That's a lovely question. Yeah, I would say Carnatic music contributed to main 2 factors. One would be the devotional purity. So it has a very, I would say Carnatic music is primarily devotional, and since I was deeply into spirituality from a very, very young age, I think it appealed to that side of my consciousness where bhakti was deeply touched. And another thing of Carnatic music is the rhythm aspect, the laikari. So it's a very, very advanced science when it comes to laya or tal. So learning Carnatic music has definitely helped me to understand the micro beats. Now we are talking about very technical aspects of music. So these are the 2 factors. And Hindustani, I would say the poetic aspect and the voice culture. So Carnatic music has a much more earthy kind of a voice culture, but Hindustani has a lot more free flowing and what would be the right word? I don't think there's a right substitute for the word tehrav in English, so the very slow paced and it's a very aesthetic approach to the voice. And of course, when it comes to improvisation, I would say Hindustani classical has lot more scope when it comes to coming out of a raga and coming back to the raga. So that is where ghazal music has really fascinated me, because in Hindustani music, the poetry is pretty much limited to Brij Bhasha sort of a poetry. It's mostly like Sas, Nanand and Krishna, that's it. But when it comes to ghazal, the poetry is a lot more advanced, because poets like Ghalib, Faiz, they've all spoken about existential crisis of life. A lot of metaphysical questions are being questioned in the genre ghazal.
Could you maybe now, because we don't want to, let your singing go for too long. I know this is taking you back into where you started, but could you maybe sing us some Carnatic classical?
Okay. Yeah. So these days I hardly sing Carnatic because it becomes tricky mixing the styles of Hindustani classical and Carnatic music. But I have done a lot of playback in Malayalam, which is loosely inspired by Carnatic music. So this is a lovely lullaby which I sang, which I recorded for Padma Bhushan Shobhana ji, who's a Bharatanatyam dancer and great actor. So this is I'll roughly sing 2 lines of it, and I'll show you where the Carnatic training has helped me. Chanjadi aadi urangani cherinyadi aadi urangani agashatu nyaladani kanakina kanduranga चांजाड़ी आड़े उरंगनी शरियाड़ी आड़े urangani. So these gamaks which I have used, so these are very Carnatic gamaks, and these kind of gamaks and inflections are not usually used in a Hindustani based ghazal or film song for that matter.
Okay, how interesting. Okay, now let's maybe get you to, because you said, you know, ghazals is what you do now, and the lyrics of ghazals, they can obviously just have such deep meaning to them. So, can we ask you almost to sing us a ghazal, maybe a ghazal that you would sing to your younger self as advice?
Well, there are so many ghazals. There's one which is very, very beautiful. I can sing a couple of lines at that because it has a very profound message. But I would also like to present a original of mine apart from that. So this is a ghazal which was sung by Ghulam Ali ji, and this is a advice which I would give myself, a younger me. Because you know, when you're in your 30s, you're all about conquering the world. You get offended easily, you get upset easily. Your life is, you know, it can be sometimes shadowed by doubts. But I think once you grow in life, you realize that everything is for the best. And I can happily say that I've already sort of found peace in my career, but this is an advice I would have given a 30-year-old me through this ghazal. So it's written by Amjad Islam Amjad. कहाँ आके रुकने थे रास्ते, कहाँ आके रुकने थे रास्ते, कहाँ मोड़ था उसे भूल जा, कहाँ आके रुकने थे रास्ते, कहाँ मोड़ था उसे भूल जा, वो जो मिल गया उसे याद रख, वो जो मिल गया उसे याद रख, जो नहीं मिला उसे भूल जा, कहाँ आके रुकने थे रास्ते.
Okay, Gayatri, thank you, but we are not going to let you go. Earlier you had said that you want to sing us an original. Can we have you do that for us as a sort of last song for the morning?
So, this is an original ghazal of mine, so I would love to present this for you as well.
Okay.
सुना है लोग उसे आँख भर के देखते हैं, सुना है लोग उसे आँख भर के देखते हैं, सूस के शहर में कुछ दिन ठहर के देखते हैं, सुना है लोग, सुना है लोग, सुना है लोग.
Thank you so much, Gayatri, for bringing your gorgeous voice, your excellence in 3 different forms to our show, The Breakfast Club. Okay, let's move on now from this to something slightly different. We'll take you to the world of Bollywood and to the world of films, where Shania Kapoor and Vikrant Massey are gearing up for the release of their new film, Aankhon Ki Gustakiyan. The duo in this next interview get candid. This is an emotional, engaging, fun conversation with CNN News 18 Shosha's Nishad Neelambram. Take a look.
acting with an actor who is in his prime right now, debut movie, lovely script. I heard that you had a lot of long preps where you were trying to open the door with a blindfold, walking around in your house in a blindfold.
Yes.
So yeah, all of this, how was it?
It was amazing, and I think just getting that opportunity to work with an actor like Vikrant Massey, like you said, it actually is once in a lifetime, and I really have gotten this chance in my first film, and that's like I'm just very grateful for that, because when I was going for my workshops, I remember the first thing my acting coach told me was that, you know, tomorrow's your first day of shoot and forget everything that we've learned. We've done this 10 days of prep, which was immense amount of prep, but forget it all, because tomorrow you're going to be sharing the screen with an actor like Vikrant. All you have to do is be in the moment, be honest to your character, have that thought, yes, that you are Sabha, but all you have to do is really listen to him, because he's going to give you so much, and you just have to feed off that energy. And it of course, like, acting is a give and take. So there was just so much given to me that it just made me feel like, literally in that moment, like I'm just lucky and I'm fortunate that I can share the screen with him and I can perform my scenes with him. And my first film is with an actor like him. So yeah, it's. Yeah, just excited, yes.
Because a lot of people say acting is also reacting, you know. Was there any chance, anything that you remember during the shoot wherein you didn't expect Shania to do it, but you saw it in her and you thought that, you know, how do I react to this?
There was never a moment that I didn't expect anything out of her. But all throughout the film, she superseded my expectations. Every single day. And it began from day one.
Wow.
When we were group reading together with the director. That's the first basic exercise that you do when you are prepping for a film, is to go through the script in its entirety with the director and the writer, if the writer happens to be someone else. And as she said, she prepped for nearly 2 months. I was shooting, I joined the team, say maybe 15 days later after she started prepping. And the first thing I noticed is that she knows her dialogues by heart already. She's already practiced with the blindfold on. She is spending enough time with the director. She's also spending time with her acting coach. She's also going back home and spending time with the script by herself. And that is when it kind of struck me that, okay, she is someone who knows what she's here for. And as she's, with all humility, said that she's had to wait for it, and she's been patient with it. She's been extremely graceful all throughout the tough times that she's gone through. She's going to go out there like a tigress and give her all. So I need to up my game. And I mean it. I went back home and I said, ki boss, ye to mehnat karni padegi. Also because that day gave me a sense that I need to be worth her first film. I hope I don't let her down. Because she's waited for so long. And because she deserves it. And when we started shooting, every day, there would be little moments, whether it was a montage which did not have any dialogues, whether it was that specific scene that we were talking about, wherein the entire unit and 150 people applauded for her. She got a standing ovation because she was so good. I think we hit it off instantly as people.
All right, we're going to be heading into a small break. On the other side, we are not yet done. We come back to you with market insights. Do stay with us. This is The Breakfast Club.
Delivery boys. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US Senate Republicans on Tuesday narrowly passed President Donald Trump's big tax breaks and spending cuts bill, pushing past opposition from Democrats and their own GOP ranks after a turbulent overnight session. Vice President J.D. Vance broke a 50-50 tie to push it over the top. The three Republicans opposing the bill were Tom Tillis, North Carolina's Susan Collins of Marine, and St. Rand Paul of Kentucky. We have a reaction. Let's listen to it.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
All right, so the bill has been passed. There you heard Vice President J.D. Vance, in fact, speaking on this. And this was the same bill. In fact, we've seen that on which Elon Musk and Donald Trump had that issue on which they separated to each other. So after, of course, a little bit of hurdle there, but they could manage to pass this bill, as Donald Trump calls it, a big, beautiful bill in the U.S. Congress.
On the Medicaid situation than they could have. They had saying.
Oh, all right, my colleague Akanksha is with us on the phone line. So Akanksha, as Donald Trump calls it, a big beautiful bill has been passed in the Senate. Now, if you can tell us more about this bill, what is in this bill, which in fact separated both formalize Elon Musk and Donald Trump?
Right, and I think that is what we've also observed.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Now we're going to be bringing you a special section all about financial markets. It's powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. All right, first we take a look at markets, where GIFT Nifty is indicating a very stable opening for Indian stock markets. US stock markets closed lower, weighted down by selling in tech stocks. Asian stock markets opened on a cautious note. This is amid concerns over US trade tariffs. Crude oil prices are holding steady. Traders are eyeing demand-supply conditions right now. Now, let's take a look at one sector in particular, and we look at the auto sales. They've appeared to hit a slow lane. Passenger vehicles continue to remain subdued. Two-wheelers have also hit a speed breaker of sorts. Tractors appear to be the lone bright spot in this sector, and you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the auto sector in general, but also other actionable insights on the market. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights that you're ever going to need, brought to you by Money Control. And with that, we are drawing today's edition of the Breakfast Club to an end. Remember, as usual, we want to know what you want to see us cover. So tell us the top stories you're excited about, who you want to see us bring on. You can even tell us that and we will cover it. We've done that before. We'd love to do it once again. Remember, you can give us your opinions on CNN News 18. It's on Twitter, our handle, our X handle. Always tag the Breakfast Club so we know you're directing this at us. For now, though, that's all. See you tomorrow.
Brought to you by. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US Senate Republicans on Tuesday narrowly passed President Donald Trump's big tax breaks and spending cuts bill, pushing past opposition from Democrats and their own GOP ranks after a turbulent overnight session. Vice President J.D. Vance broke a 50-50 tie to push it over the top. The three Republicans opposing the bill were Senator Tom Tillis, North Carolina's Susan Collins of Marine, and Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. We have a reaction. Let's listen to it.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
All right, so the bill has been passed. There you heard Vice President J.D. Vance, in fact, speaking on this. And this was the same bill. In fact, we've seen that that on which Elon Musk and Donald Trump had that issue on which they separated to each other. So after, of course, a little bit of hurdle there, but they could manage to pass this bill, as Donald Trump calls it, a big, beautiful bill in the US Congress.
Stance on the Medicaid situation than they could have. They had saying.
Oh, all right, my colleague Akanksha is with us on the phone line. So Akanksha, as Donald Trump calls it, a big beautiful bill has been passed in the Senate. Now, if you can tell us more about this bill, what is in this bill which in fact separated both formalize Elon Musk and Donald Trump?
Right, and I think that is what we've also observed when it was being passed in the Senate, because President J.D. Vance had to break the tie after three Republicans, as you also named them, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, even Rand Paul of Kentucky. These three Republicans, Arun, they joined all the 47 Democrats in voting against the bill. Why so? It is a common sentiment that's also shared by Elon Musk, which answers your question, that there's a debate in which Republicans are also grappling with the bill's price tag, its impact on U.S. healthcare system. Many are talking about, including Elon Musk, how this entire bill is going to also, expose, and not just expose, also increase the debt of the federal government. There is a divide within the Republicans when it comes to the nation's fast-growing debt, which amounts to over $36 trillion. And they believe that this is going to also increase the self-imposed debt ceiling by, say, $5 trillion. And the Congress will be raising this cap in the coming months or risk devastating default. And that is one concern that has been shared by these Republicans, including, in fact, Elon Musk also joins that chorus. And so, as you said, many are also of the belief, the Democrats have been saying that this is one bill that is only going to benefit the rich billionaires, and and it's going to impact the common man severely, especially when it comes to cuts in healthcare, and is going to be extremely anti-youth. There's going.
Good morning and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Grihatul. Let's begin with the headlines at the top of 9 a.m. Quad does what SCO didn't. Quad leaders condemn the Pahalgam terror attack, call for perpetrators to be brought to justice. External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, on his first US visit after Operation Sindoor, rejects Trump's claim of having used trade to force a ceasefire with Pakistan. Prime Minister Modi begins his longest foreign trip in 10 years. Prime Minister Modi to visit 5 countries in 8 days. First stop Ghana. Prime Minister to participate in the BRICS summit in Brazil. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah orders probe into alarming rise in heart attacks in Hassan. Flags possible COVID vaccine link in the rise in cases. Home Ministry says judiciary not to override executive's decision to deport a foreign national. This comes after Jammu and Kashmir High Court said that a Pakistani woman living in the Union Territory for years should have been protected from deportation during India's retaliatory action. Tibetans in Himachal Pradesh are preparing for a grand celebration of the Dalai Lama's 91st birthday amid much speculation that he may designate his successor. Trump and Musk's feud blows up again with threats of DOGE and deportation. As the fight escalates, Elon Musk's business with the government is back in the crosshairs. The US Senate narrowly passed President Donald Trump's big tax breaks and spending cuts bill. The 940-page One Big Beautiful Bill Act is Trump's flagship legislation. Let's now begin the broadcast with the the foreign trip of Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he embarks on an 8-day, 5-nation tour to Ghana, to Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina, Brazil and Namibia in his longest diplomatic visit in the past 11 years. This will be Prime Minister Modi's first ever bilateral visit to Ghana and the first bilateral visit by any Indian Prime Minister to Argentina in over 5 decades. From the 5th to the 8th of July, Prime Minister Modi will be in Brazil to attend the 17th BRICS summit, followed by a state visit. And ahead of his departure, Prime Minister Modi has put out a statement and it reads, "I am confident that my visits to the 5 countries will reinforce our bonds, friendship across the global south, strengthen our partnerships on both sides of the Atlantic and deepen engagements in the multilateral platforms such as BRICS, the African Union, ECOWAS and the CARICOM." These are the words of Prime Minister Narendra Modi right before embarking on this 5-nation visit to Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina, Brazil and Namibia. He has put out this statement and he speaks about the growing bond of India across the global south. My colleague Siddhant is with us on the broadcast for more on this. Siddhant, Prime Minister started that trip, the longest ever in his 11-year tenure, and this message.
Well, that's right, Greha. In fact, this is the longest ever diplomatic visit of Prime Minister Modi. And in fact, he will first be going to Ghana, then TNT, after which Argentina, Brazil and Namibia. In fact, right ahead of his departure, he has the government has come up with Prime Minister Modi's departure statement, where Prime Minister says, and I quote him, "I'm confident that my visit to 5 countries will reinforce our bonds, friendship across the global south, strengthen our partnership on both sides of the Atlantic, and deepen engagements in the multilateral forum platforms such as BRICS, African Union, and CARICOM." Unquote. So, as I said, that this is the longest diplomatic visit of Prime Minister Modi. Perhaps he'll first be going to Ghana. He'll also be addressing the Indian community in Ghana. Then he will also be addressing the Parliament of Ghana. Then he'll be going to TNT. Now, TNT has large number of Indian diaspora. In fact, there is large number of Bihari diaspora also. Prime Minister will holding the community meet also. He will also be going to Argentina. Now in Argentina, critical minerals will top the agenda for discussion, after which Prime Minister will be going to Brazil. Now Brazil also, he will be participating in the BRICS summit. Perhaps we have been told that he will take up the issue of Pahalgam terror attack and cross-border terrorism. Followed by Prime Minister's state visit to Brazil. He will hold talks with President Lula. In fact, 2 days back at a press briefing, Ministry of External Affairs said that Brazilian side is interested in lot of defense equipment that India manufactures, which includes Akash air defense systems, which also includes maritime surveillance equipments, etc., etc. So perhaps we could expect big ticket defense announcement also in this visit of Prime Minister Modi. And his last leg of his visit is going to be to Namibia, where again he will be addressing